Nextdoor said this week it plans to go public through a merger with a SPAC in a deal valuing the company at $4.3 billion. In its investor presentation, the company said it has 27 million weekly active users and that 1 in 3 U.S. households, in fact, use the platform. Nextdoor added it sees sales growing 44% this year to $178 million, leading to an adjusted operating loss of about $50 million. Sarah Friar is Nextdoor's CEO, and she joins us now. Sarah, good to see you here. Congrats on this deal. The last data I saw on Nextdoor, you were valued at about $2.2 billion for a capital raise in 2019. Now the valuation has been bumped up to $4.3 billion. Why that bump?
Well, largely due to growth. We're in hyper growth mode. We saw phenomenal growth in 2020. Our DAU, our daily active users, grew 50% year over year. And as you noted, we've now reached 1 in 3 households in the United States. And of course, we're global. So we're in 11 countries around the world, 276,000 neighborhoods. And in countries like the UK, for example, we're seeing that same build happen. Today, we're in about 1 in 6 households and actually a little bit under 1 in 5 in London. So with that scale, brings monetization, brings a great business model. And so the valuation has risen commensuratively.
And, Sarah, I'm curious how you guys, and you outlined a little bit in the presentation, where you see yourself sitting with respect to competitors. I'm looking at the graph here where you have, you're comparing the frequency of use that Nextdoor has to Instagram and Twitter and Spotify, Weather Channel, so on and so forth. What I don't see on there, which is where my mind went, was, your Angie's List type home, referral services. How do you think about the opportunity that you guys have there, relative to the opportunity you have against some of these social networks that, again, are a little more prominent in the presentation?
Yeah, for sure, we are a local network, a community network. And so that is why we do have as a comparison set a lot of the companies that you mentioned, where we excel, number one, in retention. So our 3-month all the way to 2-year retention is head and shoulders above those peers. We're best in class. I think the second thing that we bring is a really unique audience. So we do show a chart in the presentation that shows that people who are coming to Nextdoor aren't visiting a lot of the other social media sites. So for advertisers, that unique audience is a way to get their message to people they can't reach any other way. But to your point, we are building overall a marketplace as well, right? We have aggregated all of these neighbors and neighborhoods around the world. They come to Nextdoor for utility and they come for community. But on the utility side, often it's to find the best plumber in that moment, right? Where you have a leaky faucet. Maybe it's to find the best cup of coffee because you've just moved into your new house and you're getting to know your neighborhood. So of course, that allows us to really speak to those local businesses. We've done a lot of investment in the last 2 years in building out a business platform, an ad platform for them. It's been incredibly successful, as you can see from our revenue growth rate. And so that does start to bring us into the zone of folks like Angie's List, Thumbtack, who are actually our customers because they come to Nextdoor to be able to put in front of our neighbors those pros that they have aggregated as well. So sometimes it's a first-party return. So a neighbor gives you that recommendation you really need. And then sometimes it's coming from a great customer of ours that can also help you get to that pro in your moment of need.
And you guys also talk about the TAM for the business has almost doubled globally. You see it doubling over the next couple of years. And I'm just curious how much maybe COVID-related mobility trends are driving that, or is it more just Facebook and Google clearly have a chokehold on the digital ad market, but with a growing market, it follows then that there is a larger opportunity for additional competitors if they can gain a toehold.
Yeah, so there's 2 ways we define TAM. There's the TAM just first of all of neighbors coming to the platform. And what we see there is Nextdoor has an inherent network effect, a true network effect, right? When you join the neighborhood just got better for everyone else on the network. And so we know that when we start in a younger neighborhood, we'll see good engagement. But when we get up into our top quartile neighborhoods, we see an over 2x improvement in engagement. And so what that's doing is driving the TAM of neighbors who can come to the platform. So there's really good growth there. And of course, international only further bolsters that. And then what you're getting to is the digital ad market. So there's not an advertiser that I speak to that isn't moving their spend online, right? Print, TV, just getting harder. With digital, you can really target your customer. And so Nextdoor is part of that shift to digital. Where we are unique is we are hyper local targeting. So whether you're the local mom and pop coffee shop or whether you're the largest retailers in the world, folks like Walmart, we can make sure that you're getting your message into the neighborhood, and often in a really hyper local way. We can actually change the message in the app to recognize a neighborhood and maybe a piece of information that's particular to that neighborhood. So it's definitely helping drive our growth, and I think it's providing yet another new place for digital advertising to happen.
Sarah, it's Julie here. I want to ask you about content moderation, which I know has been a challenge for you guys, like it has been for most social networks. A little bit different for you guys because you do have that location attached to your users. And I know you have spent some resources on trying to fix, for example, some racist comments that had been in some of the discussions. So now that you're going to have more resources, what kind of efforts are you going to continue to put in or even ramp up when it comes to this area?
So this is a hugely important area, right? We have to earn trust every day. It's our number one core value. Nextdoor is really founded on trust. So remember, where we're different from other networks is, first of all, when you join, we confirm that you're a real neighbor in the real neighborhood. So we don't allow avatars and bots and people to have multiple, usernames and so on. So what that does is it brings accountability. It's harder to be completely obnoxious when you know you might end up standing, on the side of the soccer field with that same person. On top of that, we built out local moderation because we think it's important to have local context. But of course, technology also plays a part here. So we will invest in areas like machine learning and data science to make sure that we're catching content that may be inherently toxic in a neighborhood, right? We want to build out kindness. And then the other thing we've done is we've done a lot of work with behavioral scientists, some of the best in the world, to be able to put into the technology ways to just help you be more accountable and be your better self. We don't want to stymie tough conversations. It's incredibly important right now that we can talk about things like race, for example, in neighborhoods. And so to do that well, though, we often slow people down. We've done things like anti-bias training. We've done an anti-discrimination reminder, a kindness reminder, and all of these things just stop you in the moment, remind you that great neighborhoods are created with kindness. And we find that people often edit what they're saying, but they still post. So the conversation, importantly, continues, but it continues in a much more constructive way.
Sarah, I didn't catch this in the presentation, but when do you think the business model will turn profitable?
So the way I think about that is, while we can drive hyper growth, investors want us to keep investing, right? Our profile is as a growth company. Historically, I've often run to the rule of 40. Investors may have heard of that. So the concept is that you add your top line growth rate plus your EBITDA margin. And if that's above 40, that means that what you're doing is on a good course. So in a high growth company like Nextdoor, we will keep investing behind that growth, probably for many, many years, because of our ability to do things like take the platform and shift it globally. But we know we have a really profitable business model, right? It's a proven business model, gross margins over 80%. So if we do need to turn down investment, we can do that actually relatively flexibly to turn up overall profitability if our growth rate were to start to slow. So for now, definitely in growth mode, but something we keep a very firm eye on, and something that I've learned, through my years of working with great growth companies like Salesforce and Square, for example.
And Sarah, you're on the board at Slack and you're on the board at Walmart. And you've been on that board at Walmart since 2018. I would imagine somewhere close to when you took over from Nextdoor. It's not very often you get to work with a family like the Waltons and a CEO over at Walmart like Doug McMillon. What have you learned since being on that Walmart board, and what have you applied to Nextdoor?
Yeah, it's a great question. When I was joining the Walmart board, I read the book about Sam Walton, And never was there a person more community minded. And so that was actually one of the reasons I got really intrigued by what they had built, right? Walmart is the ultimate Fortune 1, but also the ultimate community business, right? They are often the only store in town, and they often act not just as a place to go buy things, but as a meeting place, a place where communities can come together. And so that's certainly one thing I've learned. They're also global, right? We've done some amazing work with Walmart in countries like India. And so learning from Doug how he manages that global expansion has really been incredible. So I feel really gifted to have been able to spend time watching a company at that sort of scale, particularly with Nextdoor and the scale that we know we can build. Nextdoor should be a global concept. Everyone is a neighbor. Everyone wants to drive that community and needs that utility in their local neighborhood.
Everyone needs those $4 or $5 hamburgers that Walmart sells at a discount, low price. We will leave it there. Nextdoor CEO Sarah Friar, good to see you. Good luck on the transaction. We'll talk to you soon.